Hello and welcome to the program Onboarding Employees. On behalf of Aurora Training Advantage, I would like to thank you for joining us. Your guest speaker today are Lilith Christiansen and Melissa Tacey. Lilith is a Vice President at Kaiser Associates and co-leads the firm's organization development practice. She has led numerous onboarding organization designs, process improvement, change management, strategic planning, and employee program redesign projects for leading global organizations in both public and private sectors. Lilith is a co-author of Successful Onboarding, Strategies to Unlock Hidden Value Within Your Organization. The other speaker today is Melissa Tacey. She is a manager in Kaiser's organizational development practice. Melissa's areas of expertise include the design and implementation of talent management, organizational change, and training programs. Prior to joining Kaiser, Melissa supported the Air Force Civil Engineering, Information Technology, and Business Process Transformation efforts. Questions can be entered in the control panel, and as many as possible will be answered at the end of the presentation. Enjoy the program.
All right, thanks Isaac. Good afternoon everyone, or good morning for those of you on the West Coast. This is Lilith Christiansen speaking. Thanks so much for the intro, Isaac. Missy, do you want to go ahead and say hi?
Hello everyone.
Great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about how our session is going to go today. We've divided it up into four different topic areas. First, we want to provide you all with a little bit of background into, why onboarding? Why is this an important thing to invest in for organizations, as well as share with you our framework for success and what makes for a successful onboarding program. Next, we'll take you into some best-in-class examples of specific onboarding programming and tactics, and that can really help bring to life those elements of the framework that we'll be sharing with you in the first section. In our third piece, what we want to do is kind of, look ahead a bit. While we've been working in the onboarding space for many years now and had published our book back in 2010, we don't want to just get stale on the information and the thinking, and there's so much exciting change going on right now in the world of talent and as we look at the opportunities that we have as organizations. So we wanted to take a stock at what some of the key trends are right now today that are affecting our businesses, and then evaluate how that's going to affect onboarding going forward. So we've also included a lot of other great tactics and best-in-class examples in that third section. Then we'll conclude our session today by giving you some perspective on where do you start as you're looking to redesign your onboarding programs, and give you a framework that you can follow, as well as some tips and tricks, things to watch out for based on our work that we've done in the space and lessons learned from others. So with that, we'll jump right into things, and I'll pass it off to Missy to start us off.
Hi everyone. So we wanted to start just by having a brief conversation around the business case for onboarding. As we work with our clients, we tend to find that this is an area in HR and talent management that is a bit more qualitative to some business leaders that are used to making very strategic decisions based on hard data and metrics. And what we look to do is kind of tie the onboarding program back with the real data that we do have and how we can see the return on investment going forward. And I know Lilith will be sharing with you a bit later in the program some trends that are making this return on investment even more apparent, especially to people in the business and people looking to lead delivery. But what we want to kind of foot stop here is that one of those trends really has to do with this highly competitive talent marketplace. We, over time, have seen a trend for pieces of the HR organization moving from a more segmented vertical approach. So these people here run recruiting, these people run onboarding, now you're in talent management. We're seeing now is a much broader definition of talent acquisition and talent management that's very interconnected. where we've seen the most hard data having to do with the area of talent acquisition and recruiting. We're finding organizations are very good at reporting out on that. And then what happens is these really hard to find critical talent and employees are coming in the door, and then not quite as much of a focus and around how they're doing in terms of time to productivity. Those types of things are a bit more qualitative in nature. So what we're finding is that companies that are really focusing after the talent is brought in the door, continuing that conversation and delivering on the employee value proposition they were sold in those very first moments all the way through year one, are really finding that in this era of a highly competitive marketplace with millennial talent reaching up towards half the employee-based population, big time improvement objectives for the broader HR organization are able to be realized through an investment in an onboarding program. So as you see on the screen, we have down here things like knowledge transfer, employment brand, consistency of experience. And what you'll notice with all of those objectives is that they don't just reside only in an onboarding program. They're a continuation of the talent journey from their very first interaction with the company all the way through their first year and beyond. So we really find that organizations that pinpoint onboarding as a key kind of joint in between getting talent in the door and getting them invested and excited to get others in the door and to be productive really help the broader health of the talent management organization. As a result of that investment, you will find lower attrition, and we'll talk a little bit later of what that attrition might look like and how the composition of that attrition might change. Time to productivity, meaning how fast can this new hire get in the door? We're finding that organizations really not only want folks present, but present and engaged and active, and in an era of having so much competition, you may not have the robust classes of new hires just knocking at your door as they used to. So what can we do with who we can get in the door and who is qualified to be as effective as possible? Also, just in terms of reducing costs in recruiting and labor, I don't have to be the one to talk to you about how expensive talent acquisition can be, but the last thing you want to do after going through the business development and sales cycle to talent and selling your business and your positions to new talent in your field is to have them walk in the door, be unimpressed, and leave before they really got a handle on all the opportunities that they could find at your organization.
And the piece that I'll add to what Missy shared here is these are a starting point, or I don't want to call it a menu, but what I would caution you about is don't try to accomplish all of these objectives and drive for all of this impact all at once. It's really important to be choiceful around what's going to have the most impact at your organization, and to make this choice up front, because there very much are implications then into the design of the program that you would develop coming out of it. So with that, we'll head into our first poll. And we wanted to get a perspective from you all as far as what are some of your biggest drivers today of an increased focus. Oh, I launched the wrong poll after I promised Isaac that I knew what I was doing. There we go. So what are the biggest drivers of an increased focus on your new hire onboarding program today? So we went through a few of them on the first page, and just curious about what it is that brought you into our conversation today, and helps us understand what maybe you're looking to get out of our presentation, that we can tailor a little bit about what we're talking about going forward. So good number of folks have voted so far. We're about at halfway, so we'll give you another moment to chime in. So far, it's looking like a majority of the folks are really focused on that new hire readiness, time to productivity, and level of productivity, which is great because I think those are things that are really impactful for the organization at large, and in particular the managers that have gone to hire these folks and bring them in. So we'll go ahead and close the poll now and share it with everyone. So just about 70% of folks picked that first topic area, which again really helps to demonstrate some organizational impact. About 11% of you picked the new hire attrition, which is definitely a popular kind of commonplace to start because it's also something that's really easily measurable and allows individuals to have impact that you can really show back to the organization the value that onboarding is having. And then about 20% of folks chose the ability to compete for and attract critical talent, which I think is excellent. To me, the folks that answered that may already be starting to show some results on some of the other factors, and they're starting to use onboarding as a differentiator in the marketplace. So it'll be great to maybe hear some ideas from you all as we continue the conversation.
So I think this is appropriate going off of the last poll question. What does the enhanced time to productivity and level of productivity really look like? You'll see here, and in the subsequent slide, we will explain in more detail our onboarding framework. And you see at the bottom here, we really look at onboarding and tracking the value of onboarding all the way through year one. We take the approach, however, that year one may look different for different organizations that may have different types of hires or talent segments. So really year one is the equivalent of one full business cycle, whatever that might look like to you individually. But what we find is that onboarding really begins pre-day one, and that utility that you get from the onboarding program starts to show just based on the interaction and the preparation and the shift in mindset the employee has before they even show up that very first day. They come in much more ready to grasp the information that you will be sharing with them, prepared with whether they've done their paperwork before and they've familiarized themselves with their experience they're going to be having. That day one, you kind of minimize the doe-eyed look into what have I gotten myself into. From there, after the orientation, you find, or we have found, that new hires that are part of a really thoughtful and well-designed onboarding program are much more capable in terms of grasping the strategic concepts and the tactical enablers that will help them perform at their job and to expectations. While the competition for talent has gotten more fierce in terms of getting anyone in the door, expectations on the side of the business and managers and hiring managers have also gotten more competitive, so that we're finding that managers really need folks to come in the door day one with a learning and acting mindset, prepared to apply whatever has made them the right candidate for this position in the context of the business they're operating in. We find that typically we see the even more elevated level of productivity day 90 and beyond as they start excelling in role. So at this point, they have gotten their bearings straight, they've met their new team, they've had their first impression, and what we see is that people that have had the right conversations with the right stakeholders and met the correct people during their first days at the firm, they are ready to jump into their role, have the network within the community to make themselves effective, feel confident in having conversations with stakeholders, and find themselves being more productive and